In 1919, Sarah Ramsland won a seat here in the Saskatchewan legislature. She was the first woman to sit in this chamber, but ironically, she did nothing to further the women's movement. In fact, Sarah Ramsland can best be described as an accidental politician. Sarah Ramsland might never have ended up in politics if her husband hadn't died in the Great Flu Epidemic of 1918. Magnus Ramsland was the Liberal MLA for the Pelly constituency. The governing Liberals, led by Premier William Martin, thought the new widow would make a perfect candidate.
I expect that there was some thought given to the fact that she would attract a certain amount of sympathy vote.
Elizabeth Kalmakoff has written on women in Saskatchewan politics. She doesn't believe Sarah Ramsland had any great political ambition. She just needed a job.
I think Ramsland agreed to run because she was from a political family. She probably saw it as a responsibility. Public service was a responsibility. She probably felt some loyalty to her husband who had recently died. And she probably realized that it would help her support her children.
Saskatchewan women had finally won the right to vote in 1916. Ramsland had never been part of that fight, never joined the women's movement, never been involved in politics. Despite all that, she won the by-election with only a slightly smaller majority than her husband. Ramsland was off to Regina and the very male world of politics.
Her fellow Liberal members of the legislature apparently did try to ease the way for Sarah to some extent. So I think an effort was made to make her feel at home and to make her feel part of the brotherhood, as it were, of sitting members.
Sarah Ramsland started out with high hopes and even higher ideals. After her victory, she wrote to her parents, saying, "My vote can never be bought."
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions or comments?
But if women were looking for an advocate, they would have been disappointed. Ramsland's career in the legislature was entirely unremarkable. She behaved like any good backbencher. She quietly took her seat and was almost never heard from again. But in a roundabout way, that's exactly what made her such a success.
Sarah Ramsland was a success as an MLA for the same reasons that she is not remembered today, which are that she did a good job as an MLA but did nothing surprising. She fit in. She did what she was told. She didn't rock the boat. If she had been remembered, it might have been because she didn't perform well. We're glad that she's obscure.
Ramsland did have one political showdown. When she needed money to fix a road in her constituency and was turned down by Highways Minister Jimmy Gardiner, she took out her knitting and threatened to sit in the legislature until he changed his mind. Gardiner did. Ramsland spent 6 years in the legislature and stood up for women's rights only once. On her last day as an MLA, she called for changes to the divorce laws so that men and women could apply on equal grounds.
Sarah Ramsland is not remembered very well by most people. Most people looking for feminist heroines don't happen to have struck on Sarah Ramsland.
Sarah Ramsland was defeated in the 1925 election, and Saskatchewan voters wouldn't put another woman in the legislature until 1944, almost 20 years later. And the woman who first broke down the gender barrier, she died in 1964. Her short political career mostly forgotten. I'm Bill Waiser.